Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 80. My name is Eddie Rivka, and I'm joined as always by Chris Chapman of Fox Sports Las Vegas and by the pride of the great state of Minnesota. Lindsey Brown is back from the outback in Australia. She was not eaten by Aborigines. She is back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're happy to have her. This episode is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, your home for everything Las Vegas. If you need a restaurant tip, go to the Las Vegas Advisor. Show tip, same thing. Gambling tip, yep, you got it, lasvegasadvisor.com. And because Chris Chapman is an amateur and doesn't really know where all the hot strip clubs are, he can find out where the hottest girls are. Get your strip club tips at the lasvegasadvisor.com. And by my good friend, Dr. John Pierce at agelessforever.net, concierge medicine at its very finest. The new Slim Trim Me is brought to you 100% by the care of Dr. John Pierce. So instead of doing anything about any of the other series, let's talk about 1024. Do you know what the significance of 1024 is?
I do, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, that's
for our fans.
Amount of days it's been since the Golden Knights have faced elimination in the playoffs.
That is correct. The Golden Knights stormed out to a 2-0 lead, winning 2 games in Dallas. Dallas came to the Fortress and stomped a mud hole, in the immortal words of one stone cold Steve Austin, in the Golden Knights for games 3 and 4. And last night, in game 5, the home team actually held serve. The Golden Knights lost 3-2 to the Dallas Stars. They are behind 3-2 in a series, and as Mr. Chapman so brilliantly deduced, Friday night's game tomorrow on May 3rd will be the first time that the Vegas Golden Knights have faced elimination in 1,024 days. They went through the entire Stanley Cup run last year, never saw an elimination game. So, Lindsey, do you want to talk about games 3 and 4 at the Fortress first, or do you just want to talk about last night? And we'll let you lead it, and Chap and I will follow.
Well, you know me, I'll probably talk about both at the same time because there were a lot of changes to the lineup last night. You had Adin Hill in there for Logan Thompson. You had Ben Hutton sliding in for Zach Whitecloud, pairing up with Noah Hannafin, breaking up that Hannafin-Pietrangelo pairing, which I think was imperative because it's just hasn't worked since they've tried to put it together in the regular season. And then you had Dorofeev sliding in for Kolesar, a bunch of jumbled lines, of course. And the result was the same as it was the last 2 games. And there's a bunch of ways that we could splice last night, whether that's Alex Pietrangelo's dumbass penalty. We know that he has a propensity to do that. He was suspended last year for a game during that Edmonton series. I know that there was back and forth between that, but there's a certain amount of leadership and maturity that you expect in those moments. Or we could talk about, the choice of the goaltending switch and why I think it was the right thing to do to bring Adin Hill in, because Dallas from the get-go has had an incredibly well-scouted plan for the Golden Knights. It started with that Jamie Benn goal in game 1 where he had that breakaway, that stretch pass, and he waited for Logan Thompson to just get into his coil to push across, and that's where he did the little zip right through the 5-hole. Like, that is scouted, but more importantly, it is executed upon. And what they started to do in games 3 and 4 is they started aiming at Logan Thompson's ears, and that's going to be his post play and integration is always going to be a huge challenge. But when you're dealing with plays that are, butt to the boards on almost near the goal line, and that's a high danger chance, not by the way that we define it, but by the way that Logan Thompson plays, something needed to be done. Something needed to be changed. And that being Adin Hill being put in last night, who's out there for the losing effort. But I also know that the Golden Knights were basically non-existent in high danger chances. They can't get to the inside. And Dallas has been all the way in on finding those opportunities and capitalizing on them. I think the Golden Knights are too focused on the wrong shit right now. I was looking at the hit totals over the course of the last few games. In game 1, there's 55 hits for the Golden Knights, 31 for Dallas. Game 2 is 55-54, almost the same. But then it switched. All of a sudden, Golden Knights 47 hits, but then 23 for Dallas. And Dallas has gone 23, 17, 26, while the Golden Knights have remained in the 40s for hits. That is expended energy. That is getting yourself out of position. And you can tell because they're losing puck battles and their timing is god awful, especially through the neutral zone. How many offsides was there last night? How many times did we see players slow up at the blue line while the puck carrier's trying to go on that zone entry? And it, by the grace of all of the hockey gods, let's say they stay on sides, every player was pulling up and looking for a lateral pass within, 8 feet of the blue line. You know where the worst place to turn pucks over are? Within 8 feet of either side of any blue line. And so they're just, for as physical as they're playing, they're actually not playing as snarly as they need to. And to your words last night, Eddie, they're playing like a pretty hockey team.
Chat.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to it, and certainly she understands the goalie aspect of it a lot better than I do. And I'll start by saying that I didn't necessarily think that the goalie decision was warranted, but I don't think the Golden Knights are going to lose this series based on the play of Adin Hill or Logan Thompson. I think they both played well enough for the Golden Knights to have already won this series, especially the effort from Logan Thompson in Game 3, where I think he stopped about 45 shots. Unfortunately, he didn't stop the last one, which ended up being the game-winning goal in overtime for Dallas. But Dallas has not gotten away at all from the way that they have played, starting with Game 1. They have pretty much played the same game every single night. And I think it's Vegas who's kind of, well, I don't know if they've ever really gotten to their game. I mean, they've had, it's kind of like what we've talked about all season with them. They've had moments where they've had it, but I don't know if they've played a full 60-minute game in the series. And we heard, and I'll go to Game 3 because that's obviously where the series changed. Bruce Cassidy made a comment after the game about, I don't know if they thought this was going to be easy. And then Pete DeBoer made a comment in the same game about how he thought the Golden Knights were chasing hits. And that kind of goes along with what Lindsey said. And at the time, I didn't really buy too much into Pete DeBoer's comment. But if you look at all the statistics she's just laid out, you can see that the Golden Knights are trying to beat up the Dallas Stars. And that's not their game. Like, I think there's a lot of problems with the Golden Knights. And if they somehow, by the grace of God, find a way to win this series, they are not beating the Colorado Avalanche. They will get humiliated by the Colorado Avalanche because the way that they have allowed so many high danger chances to the Stars, Colorado I shouldn't even get that far ahead because I don't even think the Golden Knights are going to win on Friday. Pete DeBoer made another comment after Game 2 about, and I think it was a real mind fuck, in that his comment was that I think we talked about it last Friday, Eddie, when we recorded it. We have not figured them out, and they're the defending Cup champs, and no one else has been able to figure them out, or something along those lines, or they figured us out. I think that's what the comment was. They figured us out. And I think the Dallas players, they took it upon themselves to say, hey, you know what? This guy, he doesn't believe in us. But they didn't change their game. Vegas has not played their game. And if you look at last night, you look at Game 4, they played like shit, the Golden Knights. And I don't think Dallas is doing anything special other than letting the Golden Knights beat themselves. And I'm a big soccer guy. And when I watch a team like Manchester City play, who I fucking hate, by the way, but there's a reason why they're looking to win their 4th straight Premier League title. When teams make mistakes, they fucking punish them. And that's what the Dallas Stars are doing to the Golden Knights. Hey, you know what, Alex Pietrangelo? You want to take a stupid penalty 20 feet behind the play? Well, guess fucking what? Now you're tied. Hey, Alex Petrangelo, you want to sucker punch our guy behind the play? Guess what? Now you're losing 3-2 and you just lost 3-2. Hey, Jonathan Marchessault, you want to turn the puck over at the blue line? Well, guess what? We're going to go the other direction and we're going to score and we're going to take a 1-0 or we're going to tie this game at 1 after it seemed like you took all the momentum in that first period. It was almost like a repeat of game 2 and game 4 where the Golden Knights took the lead in the first period and Dallas scored a late goal. Well, in this case, they equalized pretty quickly, but Vegas scored first in games 4 and 5. Dallas responded right away in both games. Game 2, Vegas trailed 1-0, and they responded right away, and the game went in Vegas's favor. I think what we're seeing is maybe you don't want to score first in these games, but the other thing is the response of the Dallas Stars. As soon as Vegas does something positive, the Golden Knights have no answer. They have no answer for what Jake Ottinger's doing in net. I mean, their offense went AWOL after
they're not even getting in the areas that would actually challenge Jake Ottinger. Like, he hasn't had to be spectacular besides 1 or 2 saves a game. And that's what you would expect as any netminder, right, Eddie? Like, you're not supposed to see 10, 12, 15 of these shots, but they're not earning the ice enough to really challenge the Stars.
With regards to the goalie change, I think it was the right move. And I think you just have to look at it this way. 4 games in 9 nights. It would have been 5 games in 11 nights. I am not a stat guy, as I've said on multiple episodes. There's no way that Logan Thompson has played 5 games in 11 nights in his career. It's just they're not grouped that tight in the regular season, and he hasn't had any playoff action. I think after game 3, he was spent. He shot his load in game 3 trying to keep them in a game that they had absolutely no reason whatsoever to win. And they tied it up, and then for some reason in the overtime period they decided to play like a passive puppy, and Dallas brought it to them, and the result that they got was 1000% the result that they deserved. Game 4, Lindsey broke down for you fine viewers shooting at the ears. That's the new thing. This new goalie system that everybody is employing has opened up different target spots. But the fact that he gave up 2 goals from below the goal line, and the fact that he's a man who is 6'4" plus, and he plays like a goalie who's 5'8" plus, it has some advantage, right? His twitch is faster.
He's explosive.
But the huge disadvantage that everybody in the league knows is that I think they call them 8 and 9 hole, the goalie's ears coming from the flanks, is significantly more open than it would be on a 6'4" goalie who plays like a 6'4" goalie. And Dallas, like you said, Lindsey, has that scouted, and that was absolutely 1,000. It wasn't a lackadaisical throw at the net. That was shooting to score. And the fact that they had 2 of those games, I just feel like Logan Thompson ran out of gas a little bit in game 4, and this was Adin Hill's opportunity, not unlike last year except that it came taking over for an injury. But this was his moment to shine. Did he shine? Not really, but he didn't cost them the game. Not in any way, shape, or form. The goalie hasn't cost them any of the games that they've lost. I think that you can boil this down to one thing and one thing only. We talked about it going into the playoffs. We talked about it quite a bit. The last 2 or 3 episodes when we were, playing the hypothetical game of what kind of lineup the Golden Knights are going to ice for the first game in the playoffs, and that it would be the first time that they iced the lineup in game 1 that they had all year. If you ask me what's the one single factor that's determining the current status of this series. It's the fact that the Golden Knights just have never played enough together. They don't know what to do with Tomas Hertl. They don't know what to do with Noah Hannafin. Lindsey and I talked about it last night on the couch. We both think that Pietrangelo and Hannafin was a terrible pair. It has never worked. They look to each other trying to decide who's going to rush the puck. And that's not a knock on either one of them. That's more a compliment that both of them play the alpha system of defense and are hyper aggressive. But if you don't know what your partner's doing defensively at that level, you're in big trouble. And I thought Noah Hannafin brought out the best Nick Hague that we've seen as a Golden Knight. Unfortunately, Nick Hague is hurt. They say he's day-to-day, but he's missed 3 games. He's probably not day-to-day. This series has come down to the fact that the Golden Knights don't know. They know who they are, but they don't know who they're playing with. And having one 30 or 40-minute practice when they can squeeze one in doesn't give any time at all for you to know what your wingers are going to do if you're a center. And if you're a center, what are you doing, Chapman?
Just keep going.
Just keep going. I have to deal with the dogs.
Is the dog sticking its asshole on the
yes.
camera?
Yes, just keep going.
Okay. This series has not been particularly competitive for a 3-2 series. It's been competitive because the games have close outcomes. They've all been 1-goal games with the exception of the empty netter, and we don't count for those. But Dallas is the same team that's played together the entire year. The Golden Knights, thank you, Chapman, for that. I appreciate the view of your dog's asshole. The Golden Knights, there's no chemistry, and it's not their fault, right? The injury bug did what the injury bug does. Kelly McCrimmon did what he could do to bolster an all-star lineup, but that doesn't mask the fact that they had no time playing together. I will add this one tidbit that from now on, Kelly McCrimmon is required. It is mandated that Kelly McCrimmon call me on the phone before he trades for any former Detroit Red Wings. Because both of my shoulders are strained from patting myself on the back recently, but I'm pretty sure that I laid the pipe on Anthony Mantha the day that deal was made, and when he was invisible for the first 5 or 6 games that he was here. He had a nice run after I called him a piece of shit, but then he became what he became. He's Anthony Mantha. And I sent a text to Chap a couple of days ago where somebody in the media said, he's a big man that doesn't play like a big man. Well, guess what? Your guy Eddie said that from the very beginning. And the worst trade in the history of the Golden Knights will be the acquisition of Tomas Tatar. The second worst trade in the Golden Knights history is currently healthy scratch Anthony Mantha. And what do they both have in common? Eddie watched them be pieces of shit for the Detroit Red Wings. So, Kel, ring me up, baby. If you got a wing on your to-do list, call the big boy up. I'll give you the correct scouting report, and that's it. But this is, I'm not going to make excuses. There's $90 million on the ice. They're NHL players, but it's going to take an act of God, if you believe in God, for them to win this series, because they made enormous lineup changes, as you said, Lindsey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they didn't work. It's not that they really did work. But, I mean, Dorofeyev played 7, 8, 9 minutes maybe yesterday. Right. He could have gone and taken a shower and gone back to the hotel. He wasn't seeing the ice in the third period. But you have to try some things, right? Because status quo wasn't working. Amadio scored a big goal in Game 4. Oh, I'm going to do it. Oh,
Oh, same.
Brian Salmon,
Same.
our good friend of Channel 3, gave me a TV hit and asked me what I thought about Amadio coming out of the press box. I said Amadio's going to deliver big things. Amadio scores the first goal. Oh, I need that
He's
CBD
money out of the
ointment.
press box.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
money.
He's absolute money. But it doesn't seem to matter what buttons they push. And that's my final analysis is there's just no cohesiveness there. And there's no way for them to find cohesiveness by puck drop at 7:08 tomorrow night.
What's
Go
most
ahead, Vince.
bizarre to me about just everything that we've seen, and I've been very critical of the Golden Knights defensemen all year long because I saw how easy it was to break into their house and get in front of the goaltender's face and find a way to clobber it in. And there weren't really any goals like that last night. The Duchesne one, yes, but that's on the power play. But what's been truly troubling is how this team has approached the neutral zone. This is why it kind of loops back to the quote that you mentioned, Chris, with Bruce saying it almost seems like they assume like it's going to be easy. They assume that the breakouts are going to go fine. They assume that the defensemen are going to make the play. So they're already up in the neutral zone, ready to be like, here I am. There's no support. And last game with the jumbling of the defensemen, which as we've mentioned was imperative, how poorly Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore have played. Like, honestly, part of me wanted to see Shea Theodore up in the press box last night. Like, there was merit for that. And I can understand why you don't make that move. He's a top 4 defenseman by every stretch of the imagination and definition, but he hasn't played like it. And both of these guys have missed considerable time this year. So I take that and my critique with a grain of salt. But I just can't believe some of the turnovers and the foot races that they lose. And we talk all the time about how good of a skater Shea Theodore is, how good of a skater Alex Pietrangelo is. But the reason why they're such great skaters is that they're not hyper efficient. They've gotten away with extra strides and being able to loop things around. And right now they can't. They can't because they've been hobbled, because they're not integrated as a unit. Regardless, it's ending up with massive turnovers or an inability to get the pucks out of the defensive zone in general. And last year, that was kind of a tenet as well. Like, they were built to endure. It was okay to be in the defensive zone and line everybody up, and we're going to block a shit ton of shots. And I was looking at the block shots too. They're comparable between the two teams. I'd be interested to see what they would look like compared to last year. I mean, even in game 3, the Vegas had 32 block shots, right? But they just seem like they're untethered, that when things get tough, they start reverting back to some of their worst instincts, which is sometimes go up early on the rush, cherry pick a little bit, not supporting the puck, or just saying somebody else will get it. And so you can see that disjointedness that both of you have talked about. They can't even complete a pass. Like, if you can't even get a pass through the neutral zone, I don't know how we're going to expect them to get on in the kitchen and get shit done in front of the Dallas zone, because that puck's getting broken up and sent the other way before they even give themselves a chance.
I'm not going to give Pietrangelo a pass and say, hey, the guy's recovering from an appendectomy. Look, that's certainly, I think, a factor, right?
Listen, appendectomy doesn't affect brain farts.
Right.
Correct.
If he is in there, he's good to play. And I don't think I'm making any hot take when I say that Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo have been the 2 worst members of the blue line for the Golden Knights in this series. I mean, it's not that Shea is bad. He was a traffic cone in game 3 in overtime. That's his mark on the series. He was a traffic cone on the game-winning goal. But you've gotten absolutely nothing out of him. No goals, no assists in the series. This is a guy who, for years, we've heard, he's a top 10 defenseman in the league.
Fringe Norris.
I think what you're seeing from Noah Hannafin is what Golden Knight fans built Shea Theodore up for years. Hannafin's a better player. And Hannafin hasn't been great in the series, but at least you've gotten something out of him. You've gotten nothing from Shea Theodore. You've got nothing from Alex Pietrangelo. No points for him as well. But 2 massive penalties, 1 massive turnover in game 4. I mean, that second period in game 4, not only does he commit the penalty, Dallas goes ahead and scores the game-tying goal on, which was 20 feet behind the play. And yeah, Rope Hintz sold the shit out of it. It doesn't matter. It's still a penalty. Then he turns the puck over, trying to exit the zone. Just a couple minutes later, that results in the game-winning goal for the Stars. Absolutely brutal second period from him in game 4. And he was terrible last night too. Commits the awful penalty, which was cheap, it was dirty, and he was rightfully penalized for it. Not having him on the ice in those situations, he's one of your best penalty killers. And to take him off the ice for multiple power plays that have resulted in goals, leaders need to lead. They have not gotten that from Alex Pietrangelo in this series. He wears an A on his sweater because he's an alternate captain. He was the first member of the St. Louis Blues to touch the Stanley Cup in their history for a reason. I had made the case at multiple points in this season that he was the MVP of the team because of everything he did when Shea Theodore was out, when other members of the defense were out, all the minutes he played. He hasn't been able to find it in the playoffs. And the problem is you can't put him in the press box. You can't put Shea Theodore in the press box because I just couldn't see it. I think there would be a real issue if Bruce Cassidy said, you know what, we're putting Alex Pietrangelo on the healthy scratch report for game 6. And if the Golden Knights go out and lose 5-1, then people might look at that. And I already, you know what, it's ridiculous. I already see people criticizing Bruce.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
Which it's like
he's getting out coached. He's getting out coached. I'm like, do you guys understand how little the coaching has to do with this shit?
Like he can't force Alex Pietrangelo to not sucker punch Tyler Seguin behind the play last night. Like, that's not Bruce Cassidy. I don't think either coach has made a huge difference in the series. I think it comes down to execution. Mm-hmm. And
the team that's played together is playing better. That's it. I mean, if you had to summarize the series in one sentence, the team that's played together the whole entire season is beating the team that's played together no games out of 87.
Let me ask you both this question.
Wait, I gotta before hold that question because I have a Pietrangelo and Theodore. You said you thought there would be an issue. The issue is winning. If Bruce Cassidy thinks that putting Shea Theodore in the press box, because I think it has to be Shea Theodore, just because Pietrangelo offers something on in the defensive zone, and Shea doesn't. If they're in meetings today, the coaches, and McCrimmon sits in, and Bruce says, "Listen, this is getting ahead of away from us." Because it's getting away from them. I think we need to put Shea in the press box. Do you have an issue with that?
I personally don't. No.
Lindsey, do you have an issue with that?
I said after game 4.
I've been advocating for it.
I mean, after game 4, I said he should have been benched.
Regardless of the result of the game, and I understand why you would go to if they lose 5-1. But it doesn't matter if they lose 5-1 or 15-13, right? Bruce has said on multiple occasions, I'm going to put the lineup on the ice that gives us the best chance to win. Mm-hmm. That's all Bruce can do. Bruce has also said, listen, once they go over the boards, out of my hands.
He's right.
So, Alex Pietrangelo, his conduct is unacceptable on any account. I heard some member of the media yesterday say that without Alex Pietrangelo, they don't win the Stanley Cup last year. I don't give one fuck about them winning the Stanley Cup last year. And it's a shame because as much as I like the guy who pontificated that yesterday, that's the most ridiculous, dumb homer take on things, that he gets a pass because he's an essential reason they won the cup. In the regular season, if Tyler Seguin takes a run at Shea Theodore like that, he has to answer the bell. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, with the series tied 2-2 and you're on the road, you just take a fucking receipt. You put it in your pocket and you say, first time we see him in the 24-25 season, somebody's going to pull that receipt out of their pocket and Sagan's going to have to pay. People said it wasn't
like they did with Jamie Benn last year. They
people
didn't
said
retaliate.
People said it wasn't a dirty hit. It was a dirty hit.
Yeah,
he took him from the side. He left his feet.
Mm-hmm.
But he hit him with he hit him with his chest. Folks, it doesn't matter. The principal point of contact of the hit was his head, and he left his feet. It's a penalty that should have been considered as a major. Because and no matter what, Pietrangelo is a 34-year-old guy with 2 Stanley Cups. The captain, like you so eloquently said, Chris, the captain of the Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues, something that had never been done. Yet in the playoffs, he inexplicably loses control of his emotions and has done, if they lose the series, irreparable harm to their ability to repeat. And that, to me, it's frustrating, but it's more than that. It's confusing to me. He's a smart guy. We like talking to him. He's I
really enjoy talking to him.
He's a very thoughtful, very intelligent. He's not like, a goon on that Shoresy thing. He's a really smart, well thought out, mature human being who inexplicably, at the worst possible time, takes the most gigantic brain shits that, I've seen other ones that are equal to that, but none that have been that close to me as somebody who is a fan of the Golden Knights, but also covers the Golden Knights.
He plays like a 24-year-old person who's been in the AHL for 6 years and needs to make a name for himself to stay in the league somehow, some way. Like, that's the level of decision-making that he's done. You know, when people in the preseason, they go out there and they try to hit a big hit, and it's like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? That's how he's playing.
Did you just compare Alex Pietrangelo to the legendary Rempire State Building in New York?
Rempe scores.
But Rempe's 24, has been in the AHL and looking to make a name for himself. You guys know
the type where it's like, this is my last chance to make an impression. I need to
I was just being dramatic, and I'm a big fan of Rempe.
Right. And so that's just where, and he's had shades of this. Like I mentioned last year, he was suspended for a game during that Edmonton series. And that's where this, I'm going to hit you into oblivion, works in playoffs as long as the other team is willing to dance to the same song. And Edmonton was willing to do that last year. And Dallas was doing that early in the 2 games, but then they see, maybe we should use this against them. Because as you're trying to throw yourself with reckless abandonment against these guys, that takes you out of the play. That takes something from you. There's force going right back through your body as well. And when the other team says, you know what, hard pass, I'm going to say no to drugs at this point. Like, that's where this changes. And it always looks like you're the instigator, you're the problem. And it's resulting in those power plays. And this penalty kill hasn't been the same as it was last year for all the reasons we've already talked about. There's not that integration. The players that were expected to play those big roles, like even Chandler Stevenson, I'm like, what the hell is going on with this guy? You know, it's just every single person that they relied on last playoffs for the Stanley Cup run hasn't been there. We have goals from Amadio. We have goals from Hannafin. We have goals from guys that haven't been there, from Carrier. And you would expect that from them, but they can't be the only ones. And that offense isn't there. It's like, it's almost just as bad as the lack of offense in the Nashville-Vancouver series.
Well, did I
Okay,
read
so
the stat last night or a couple days ago that Eichel and Marchessault have more goals than the rest of the forwards combined?
That's crazy.
Like
4?
Jack Eichel has been
All
really
4.
good. I think he's been good, especially he was great in game 4. They
He's
just
not
didn't have.
driving, though. Nobody's driving.
Well, he drove game 4. They just didn't. But I wanted to go back to the point I was going to make before, and I know
Well, wait, before you go back, we've meted out the appropriate punishment to Shea Theodore and Alex Petrangelo.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Do they pull the trigger and sit one of them in game 6, Lindsey?
absolutely not. Oh, sorry.
No,
Lindsey?
no, they won't. They won't.
Chap, no.
Absolutely not. No.
But we all agree they should.
I think one of them, yeah. I mean, I think
you can't do both.
The underlying problem here is if you don't have Nick Hague available, you can't put White Cloud in because he hasn't been good.
No.
And then you're relying on someone who's never played a playoff game before, and probably Caden Korzak in an elimination game.
Nah.
I just don't think that you can do that from a good faith. I mean, the reality of the situation is, as horrible as both of them have been, one of them could go out and have a huge game.
They still give them the best chance to win. They've been playing like shit, but they still give you the best chance to win if they go out and play the way they should.
Capable of doing that.
Yeah.
I think, and that's the problem Bruce is facing. I think if he was going to do it, he would have done it last night when it wasn't an elimination game. Yes, an important game, but not a season-ending potential game. But I think at the end of the day, I think what we are seeing the Golden Knights realize that Shea Theodore is expendable in the offseason. And I think listen, if they lose tomorrow night or they lose on Sunday in game 7, there are going to be some major changes made to this team. I've come around on the idea that Jonathan Marchessault will not be back next year.
Okay. You were before I interrupted you to get my take on Petrangelo, you had a question for Lindsey and I.
Yes. So we talked about coaching not really being, I don't think it's been a major factor in the series. Like, I don't think Pete has outcoached Bruce, and I don't think Bruce has outcoached Pete, and I don't think Bruce has made any mistakes, anything like that. The question, though, that I have does involve coaching. And I don't know how much this guy is involved in the day-to-day or was involved in the day-to-day scouting. But the Dallas Stars have a guy named Misha Donskov on their bench. And Misha Donskov has his name on the Stanley Cup as a member of the Golden Knights because he was the guy who stayed back last year with the injured players and helped them rehab. So he has an understanding probably deeper than anyone else in terms of their tendencies. And with the goalies, we know Logan spent some time on the injured list last year. We know Aiden spent some time on the injured list. And I just wonder how much his scouting report on specific players could have a role in this series. I mean, in a series that's this close, how much of a difference could a guy like Misha Donskov make in favor of the Stars?
I think it's a very fair question, but I think the answer is none. Because what we know of that role, right, that specific role that Misha Donskov had last year and that Sean Farrell has this year, is it's principally skills and rehabilitation of injured players. He's involved with getting players game healthy, but he has nothing to do with what Sean Burke does with the goalies, or I can't remember the forwards and the D coaches. His principal responsibility is improving them in the faceoff dot. If they're struggling in the dot, if they're struggling with taking the ring around pass on the wall, skills, making them elite NHL players. It's a fantastic question because Misha left the Golden Knights and everyone in the world said he was going to go to Columbus because he's from Columbus. His family is in Columbus. He has a skills and training center in Columbus. And then he pops up in Dallas with Pete DeBoer. It smells like a conspiracy theory. It looks like it could be a conspiracy theory. But as somebody who played the game and knows what Misha Donskov, what he brought to the Golden Knights, I think that he doesn't bring anything in the practical minute to minute, game to game, you know, tendencies. He likes to shoot high glove. I don't think that Misha has anything to do with that. So as bright an observation as it is, and like I said, it smells like fish because there he is in Dallas after leaving Vegas. I don't buy into that.
Well, it was a promotion for him too, because he's now on the bench as opposed to being that. So
up with us.
Well,
it is moving up in the world, and you know what? The guy probably will be an NHL head coach one day.
Yeah, we'll see if he wants that responsibility. Some people just want to be in the mud and help people out and do that. Maybe he wants it. I don't know. I don't know him at all. But I think it also just speaks to I hate when we do like the hunger comparison, like they're hungry for it. They're more hungry for it. But I think Dallas was willing to do whatever it took this offseason, including Donskoy, going out and getting Matt Duchene, going out and getting Tanev at the trade deadline, doing whatever it possibly took to fortify this roster and give it that chance to float. And then they're willing to make little changes, as we've seen throughout this series, in order to best give themselves a chance to win. Sometimes, like you guys have said, let them kill themselves. Clearly, the Golden Knights want to win a certain way. They want to win playing a certain style. This is what they do. But they've always been so rigid. This was part of how long did it take last season under Cassidy for it to finally click? I asked Chandler Stevenson that at the Stanley Cup Final Media Day last year, and he didn't really give me a rough timeline because honestly, it didn't really happen until well after the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And where they truly started playing the way that they needed to. And I don't think that they have enough confidence within themselves to have that trust saying, we're just going to bunker down. We're not going to chase the good feelings. We're not going to try to force things. Like, if William Karlsson is this hurt, why is he on the power play? I can understand putting on the kill. That's different. I don't expect him to be as heavy of a stick handler and what have you. But why is he on the power play expected to score? Right? We don't know what's wrong with him because they never tell us. But like I said, with the adjustment that the Dallas Stars have made in terms of physicality, they are willing to do whatever it takes to survive and advance. And I don't think the Golden Knights have been able to command that from themselves. It's one thing to want it. It's another thing to do it. And that feeds directly into that lack of time together. And honestly, they did it last year. You can't say that you have the same levels of hunger that you did last time. It's not the same fighting for the first time on the podium that it is to repeat. It's still a very lofty goal. It's something to fight for, but it's not the same.
You know, I think we've spent so much time kind of shitting on the Golden Knights that we really haven't talked about how the Stars have built their franchise and the way that they're young. They're listen.
Wyatt Johnston. It's not a Stars podcast.
No, but I think we deserve to acknowledge that they're young players. Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson, they've stepped up. They got that Stankoven kid who basically is right out of the A, and he's a factor. That kid's a factor. And the star players, with the exception of Joe Pavelski, have stepped up.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put a bundle on before, and let's talk a little bit about tomorrow night. I'll give you two questions to chew on first. Question 1, who's in goal? Question 2, what lineup changes, if any, are we going to see? Ladies first.
I keep Hill in there. He didn't do anything that would dissuade me from picking him up again. I think Logan Thompson's played great, but like I said, I think that the Stars have his number, and the demoralization factor of letting up goals like he was in the later games where he was getting picked off from really bad spots. The team can't deal with that right now. They need to help themselves out in every little pocket than they possibly can. In terms of the lineup changes, I mean, do
Bless
do
you.
they
Thank-
I was kind of surprised that they took Kolasar out, but because they're going with the less physical edge, I think you run the same people. I think you put Barbashev back with Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault. So I think Mark Stone and Stevenson. Like Stevenson, I don't think gets a lot done if he's not with Mark Stone. Maybe you put them back with Howden again. Then you have the Hurdle, Carlson, Amadio line. I don't hate that. And I think you'd have William Carrier, Nicholas Waugh, and Pavel Dorofeev for your forwards. I think there's a lot of continuity from last year, but again, you're going with familiarity. I just want them to be able to enter the offensive zone and make some halfway decent decisions after what I saw last night. And I think I honestly want to see what Noah Hannafin and Brady McNabb look like together. Because Brady McNabb's been like the best defenseman offensively that they've had so far in this series. And you keep Martinez and Pietrangelo together and you put Shea with Ben Hutton. That's what I would do.
Chris?
Well, I think there's going to be some more changes. I'm going to start by putting Keegan Kolasar back in. I'm going to take Pavel Dorofeev out because I think very clearly they don't trust him. I'm also going to make one other line change in the forward position. I'm going to take Brett Howden out of the lineup. Brett Howden has had a couple of opportunities to score goals in this series, and he has not delivered. None bigger than the one last night where he would have put the Golden Knights up 2-1, I believe it was, and he hits the crossbar. Actually, I think it would have made it 3-1, and he hits the crossbar. Brett Howden, I like him as a player. I just don't think he's delivered on his opportunity. I'm going to put Paul Connor in. I'm going to see what he can do.
Okay,
I'm going to give him a chance because you know what? He's a guy who has the ability every once in a while to find something and pull a miracle out of nothing. I think you have to make some kind of change, go with more offense, a guy who, because you're not scoring goals. And I think Paul Connor is a better goal scorer than Brett Howden. I think you take out Dorofeev, you insert Kolasar back in the lineup because, like I said, I don't think they trust Dorofeev yet. And I like what Lindsey said. I think you make some more changes to the decor. I just don't know if you do it tomorrow night because Brady McNabb.
That's what you just said. That's what you just said.
No, I know, but I just don't know if you can do it. Like, yeah, sure. I think maybe you do it, but I don't know if you can because the whole thing is we've talked about no chemistry. And Noah Hannafin and Brady McNabb have never played together before. So I don't know if I want to go down that.
Stylistically, they fit.
They do fit. They do fit. And I believe Brady McNabb could play with anyone, like William Carlson. I think I'm sticking with Aiden Hill in net. I think, I don't know if you go back to Logan Thompson, only because you don't know where his confidence level is going to be after being benched in a very important game 5, after he's played pretty well in the first 4 games. So I don't know if you make that change. I think you stick with Hill. So I do think you make some changes at the forward position. I just don't know if you make any changes on the blue line.
I think it's going to be Aiden Hill. And listen, I just think LT is gassed. You say he was benched. I think LT might have said to Sean Burke, "I'm tired." He's a gamer and he wants to play, but when 2 men are in a room and they're having a heart to heart, and Sean Burke says to him, "How's your tank?" and he says, "I'm running a little low," and he's justifiably running a little low because the Golden Knights didn't do fuck all to make his job easy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So I'll take Aiden Hill. Listen, I'm a big Paul Cotter fan, friend of the podcast, but I don't think he played a playoff game last year. I don't know if you can put a young second-year pro into an elimination game. I mean, the Dorofeev experiment is over. It's a bust, right? He's not physically strong enough man just yet. He's still a baby, right? He needs to grow up and grow into his body and put some meat on. and be fit. He's fine for the regular season, but playoff hockey is not regular season hockey. If Paul Cotter was going to slot in, I don't mind him on the fourth line with Carrier and Waugh because he's physical. He's willing. I mean, he was leading the NHL in hits for the first couple of weeks, right? It's hard to take out people with experience and replace them with people who have none. I mean, Cotter played 82 games last year, played 78 or 79, I think, this year, but 0 playoff games. And that's an enormous extra responsibility to put on a 23 or a 24-year-old kid when you're at home in front of a raucous crowd where one mistake could literally end the season. That might, I think that Cotter would have been the move in game 5. I'm not sure. And again, this is nothing against Paul Cotter because I like him. He's a good kid, and he's been kind enough to be on the podcast a couple of times, and he's earned his spot with the Golden Knights. But this might be a mountain too high to ask for the playoff game. I don't think you can put Mantha back in. He's a 6'5", 230-pound, 5'7", 130-pound guy. And he hasn't done anything to deserve the ice. I think Bruce has to go with the lineup that gives them the most familiarity with each other.
Consistency over spark, 100%.
Whatever he deems, and he's always talked about pairs. Get my fingers in there. Stevie and Stone, Eichel and Marchessault. Right, he's always talked about lines in pairs, right?
Yep.
I don't care about spark anymore. Yep. I would like to see them play with the same group of guys that they've played with the most, that Bruce, in his encyclopedia of knowledge of the players, thinks is the most consistent lineup. I don't care about spark. The spark will come from the familiarity of playing with people who you play with. I don't know who that is.
I think that's Colasar back in then, which I'm fine with too. Then you solidify that fourth line and you take the youth out of it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Okay. But so who do you put in Dorofea's place?
Well, isn't that Colasar's?
Yeah, I think Colasar goes back to the fourth line, and then you move,
and then I put
down again, and then
third.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have Eichel, Marchessault, Barbashev.
Yep.
Stevenson, Stone,
Hurdle,
Carlson, Amadio, Howden.
Yeah.
Waugh, Carrier,
Colasar.
Yeah.
I think that's what. Yeah. I think if you don't put Cotter back in, or I shouldn't say back in, if you don't insert Cotter, I think that's what the lines will look like tomorrow night. I think Colasar goes back in.
Okay,
that's consistency over spark, and you live or die by the performance of the people that have been brought here to bring you to exactly. And that's the same reasoning that we could do with the defensemen, regardless of where they play. I would still shake them up, but that's where the argument is. You don't sit Shea Theodore or Alex Pietrangelo because for you to win, they have to be part of this equation, and they need to play better.
Does Whitehouse?
No.
Does White Cloud draw back in?
No.
I don't think so. I haven't noticed Marty to be like a problem. Like there have been times during the season where I'm like, ugh, I don't know what I'm seeing, but I don't put him with Pietrangelo just to settle his ass down.
And Huddy's giving them exactly what Huddy gives them.
Yep.
I'm not taking him out either. Yeah.
I'm not taking him out. So subliminally or intentionally, I'm wearing a golf hat and a golf shirt. And Lindsey's wearing a golf hat. Chapman, we don't expect to have a golf hat.
No, I'm wearing a Jersey Shore blue claws hat.
You almost went tarps off head style. Maybe that's his equivalent.
And a Hawaiian Punch t-shirt. So
he's in vacation mode.
Yeah. So let's finish off with: are the Golden Knights going to the golf course on Saturday? Christopher?
Yes.
Lindsey?
No. 7.
Ooh. Listen, if they push it to 7, all bets are off.
Correct. I think they got it. I think they have. You have one push. You have so much. Whoever loses this series, it's catastrophic either way. And so, like, I think it's they find a way. Hill makes a couple of big saves, and somehow they're able to get it done. But their players have to perform. And so if they play the same way they have, they're not. But I'm gonna bet and be an optimist and say that they're gonna be markedly better and not make dumbass mistakes.
I can't give you one good reason why they win tomorrow night. But they're going to win tomorrow night.
Yes.
I got no fucking explanation whatsoever. Yeah. And if nothing else, you know what? It might just be pride.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Bruce was talking about last night.
It might be just pride. You're the fucking Stanley Cup defending Vegas Golden Knights. If you can't pull your heads out of your ass and give me the best 60 minutes that you've given in the 88 games that we've played this year, we're done. But I can't give you a good reason. I just feel like, I didn't check the script. This series should be destined to go to 7 games. And like you said, Chap, if it goes 7 games, who the fuck? I'll tell you what, both of you will be in the living room and we'll be having pizza because it's going to be some must-see TV.
By the way, I don't know if you guys caught it, but Alec Martinez was asked last night about winning 2 and then losing 3 and then winning 2 again. And he said he started answering the question and he said to the guy, "You must be Dallas media."
Really?
And then he said, "Why not? Why can't we win 2 straight?" So I thought that was pretty funny. Martinez, very dry sense of humor, but I thought, and he could be a little ornery when they lose, but I thought his response was pretty funny. He's just like in the middle of answering the question, he stops and goes, "You must be Dallas media." And then he goes right back to answering the question.
Well, and he's seen a lot. He's seen all of it, right? Going back to his times with LA and being on those cup championship teams, but also the team that I think was down 3-0 and came back against San Jose. Like this isn't the time to panic. This is the time to go inside yourself and look in the mirror and saying, what can I do better, and find a way to do that. Like,
and I think that's
you rely on guys like him.
I think that's part of why he doesn't draw out.
Yeah.
I mean, for him, I don't know the guy very well. I've never really had too many conversations with him. I don't know where his head is at, but this could be it.
His head could be, this is going to be my last game as an NHL player.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen so
or meaningful.
But hey,
it could also be UFA.
It could also be Jonathan Marchessault's last game as a Vegas Golden Knight.
And he's not going it quietly, let me tell you. We know that for sure.
So we've got 2 yeses, they're going to 7, and 1, they're going golfing. That's going to wrap up episode 80. We've gone a little bit longer than we were supposed to, but that's okay. When the first round wraps up, we will do a recap of our prognostications, and then we'll have to figure out if we're going to keep doing it if the Golden Knights are on the golf course or not. But hey, thanks to the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, your home for everything in Las Vegas, and by Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. For Chris Chapman of
Good thing you don't work in the airport.
And Lindsey Brown, the pride of Minnesota. My name is Eddie Rivkin. Smash that subscribe button. Show us you love us a little bit. And we will see you at the end of the first round, hopefully with more VGK stuff to talk about. Take care, everybody. We're out of here.